Welcome into another edition of the 5-Minute Morning here on the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. I've got national recruiting analyst Andrew Ivins here with me to break down a couple of topics in the state of Florida. And first of all, Andrew, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm a little sunburnt. Had a weekend of football with all the rays coming down on my skin, but I'm ready for college season. Week 0 was an appetizer. Week 1, let's go.
Dude, I love it. You got to get the rays out. You got to get the biceps going. Sun's out, guns out, as they say. Football season. I mean, that's the key word here, right? We've been plugging along. We've been working towards getting some Saturdays in the fall. So it's a lot of fun now to continue to track recruiting. One player that we're going to kick the show off with is Hakeem Williams, one of the better prospects in the state of Florida, one of the top uncommitted players in the country. He's set to announce his decision, Andrew, in about a month's time. What's the latest in the recruitment of Hakeem Williams?
The big development with Hykeem Williams, who was on my freaks list. I think he was in the top 10, number 6 overall, just an exceptional athlete, a guy that can score on the hardwood, swam at one point, but he's a really good wide receiver that can go up and win a football. He's going to spend this upcoming weekend in New Orleans with some of the people that are going to be making a decision with him. Florida State's taking on LSU on Sunday night. And while the Seminoles can't interact with student athletes off campus, they can give out tickets, and Hykeem, he's going to be out there. So I think that's notable. And then really the visits that come after that for Hykeem. He's going to get up to Pittsburgh for their game against Tennessee, and then he's going to fly out to Texas A&M the weekend of September 17th when the Aggies take on Miami. After that, commitments coming on September 23rd. So everyone's kind of jockeying for position. It's kind of like a horse race. We're going into turn 1. We'll see what happens in turn 2 and then turn 3. But really, I think the backstretch is going to come closer to the early signing period, in that November, December time frame. Because Hykeem's told me, I'm going to make a commitment, but I'm still planning to take some visits. So we'll see what happens. I like the Aggies right now, but I'll say this, a ton of FSU buzz down here in South Florida. I think the Seminoles have actually kind of shrunk that gap. I also hear positives about Pittsburgh, and then Mario Cristobal in Miami, who are recruiting very, very well. They're desperately chipping away at that recruitment. So one to watch, and one we're going to keep talking about, I think, all the way till the finish line.
Yeah, Andrew, that's a common theme with this recruiting class. After what they saw and how the college football world was shaken up by the coaching carousel with so much movement, with coordinators who going there, with head coaches moving, this way and that way. I think this class in particular is now maintaining some of those options open. Yeah, sure, there might be some commitments, but as is the case with Hakeem Williams, he's going to continue to assess his options. What are going to be some major factors when it comes down to his battle?
I think the coaching carousel, Taekwon Underwood, who is the receivers coach now at Pittsburgh, that was a guy that the primary reason Hykeem was seriously considering Rutgers at one point. I don't think a lot of people know this. Hykeem visited Rutgers for 2 or 3 game day visits last year. Rutgers was in his top 5. Well, Taekwon Underwood, he gets hired at Pittsburgh, and that relationship carries over there. He pivots to the Panthers. So I think he's trying to keep an eye on that. Who's going to be where. Ron Dugan's wide receivers coach at Florida State. He's on a 1-year deal. I think that's somewhat notable. And then at Texas A&M, you look at a program like that with how they've recruited, you would have to think there's just going to be some natural turnover. James Coley, who's a South Florida native, he's now coaching the receivers for the Aggies. I mean, he's a guy that's been linked to a variety of different jobs, whether that be a coordinator job or a group of 5 head coaching jobs. So I think Hykeem's interested in that. I think he's also wants to see what some of these teams look like in year 1, whether that's Miami and Mario Cristobal. What does FSU look like in year 3 under Mike Norvell? And I think NIL is ultimately going to play a factor in this as well. He understands the current landscape of college football. We all do. And I think he's probably going to look for the best opportunity and everything that checks off those right boxes for him.
You mentioned Rutgers, and I heard audibly our podcast producer's heartbreak, mega fan of Rutgers. Let's shift gears and talk about a couple other standouts from the state of Florida. Brandon Inniss and Carnell Tate both committed to The Ohio State. And on Preps to Pros, which we're just going to talk about in a little bit, you mentioned that they could be flippable. What is the flippability, if that's a word, on Brandon Inniss and Carnell Tate?
Well, let's be clear. I'm not moving my crystal ball for either one of those blue chip wide receivers. I mean, we all know Ohio State, what they've done with zone 6 under Brian Hartline, and the fact that those guys get the football and you get developed and you get to the NFL. So I think Carnell Tate and Brandon Inniss are pretty happy with their commitments right now. With that being said, there are some schools that are keeping in the shadows, lingering in the distance. I mean, I don't know what you want to call it. With Carnell Tate, it's Tennessee. You know, I've heard from some people that there are people close to Carnell Tate that kind of like the Volunteers. Will that sway him into taking another visit, checking out Knoxville? I don't know. I asked Carnell point blank. He told me nothing's set up. He's locked in with Ohio State. But I think you got to watch the Volunteers with Carnell Tate. And then with Brandon Inniss, keep an eye on Miami. You know, Brandon Inniss is a kid that's been on the national recruiting scene since he was an 8th grader, right? He's visited a ton of different schools. He's familiar with the rich history at Miami. He's also familiar with the ups and downs and how Mario Cristobal is trying to turn things around in the 305. So I think you got to keep an eye on Miami when it comes to Brandon Inniss, because it sounds like the Hurricanes, they are going to go all out for one of these elite wide receivers. They're also in it for Hakeem Williams, Jurion Dickey, an Oregon commit out on the West Coast. They're in it, involved with him. So 2 schools to keep an eye on. I still like Ohio State for both Carnell Tate and Brandon Inniss, but things could get silly depending on how this season goes. And if they do waver on their pledges to the Buckeyes, I think those are the 2 schools you got to look out for.
Yeah, the Buckeyes obviously trying to hold on to some of their star-studded class and have a chance this weekend to make a resounding recruiting statement as they take on Notre Dame. Andrew, you're going to bring us all the latest on Hykeem Williams as well as Brandon Inniss and Carnell Tate, and you're also co-hosting the Preps to Pro show with our colleague Cooper Patagna. Tell our listener a little bit more about what they can expect on that show across the season.
We're trying to make recruiting fun, right? You know, the NFL draft, everyone gets so hyped up and involved in that. And I think when we talk big picture with college teams and roster management, recruiting doesn't really get that. This isn't going to be a show where it's, hey, this school got a 4-star, he's a 4-star. This is going to be, hey, he's got a 4-star. This is what you can expect 2 to 3 years from now. This is what this team is doing on the recruiting trail. We're talking NFL. We're talking college football. We're talking high school football. So it's a lot of fun. And it's just kind of our lane, our niche, where we want to make recruiting cool. So please come check us out Monday and Wednesday on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel, 2 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. I'm not even going to try to guess the Mountain and Central or West Coast, your Blair time. I don't know. Yeah, you figure it out.
Disrespectful. Disrespectful. I woke up at 6 a.m. today to record a show on the West Coast time. But no, we obviously it's a great show, a lot of good breakdowns. And like Andrew said, you could catch that over on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that is Andrew Ivins. And for our producer, Lance Glenn, I am Blair Angulo. Thank you so much for listening to this 5-minute morning edition of the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast.